Thank you. So it's been a long time. I believe like two months since our last NFQ talk, and it's great to seeing you all again here. So today we have a very special guest bringing us a very interesting topic, which is mobile app development with Flutter. So Flutter is an open source framework by Google for building beautiful, natively compiled multi-platform applications from a single code base. So in this talk, our Mr. Weng over here is going to share his experience on Flutter, the pros and cons of using it, and how it's compared to similar technologies such as React Native. So please welcome Weng to the stage.
Thank you, and Jimmy, for the introduction. My name is Kwon, and I'm working as a technical lead for Cosmonaut. And I have been here in NFQ for 1.5 years. Before that, I worked as a solution architect in the AI industry, and we have some clients like Grab and Momo and Apple. And today I'm going to introduce you to the mobile development with Flutter. So let's look at what is Flutter. Flutter empowers you to use a single code base for multiple platforms like mobile, web, desktop, and embedded devices. To understand more about the concept behind Flutter, let's look at what the other developers are saying about that.
阿里巴巴集团的使命是让天下没有难做的生意。目前，闲鱼超2亿用户中，已有5000万用户使用 Flutter。闲鱼致力于打造无闲置社会，把全新的生活方式和理念带给年轻人。比如说，有一位铲屎官想出售宠物用品，希望能够快速发布抓人眼球的商品信息。当有用户有购买需求时，只需清除屏幕即可。我们常在思考，如何构建易于操作的应用？如何确保应用画面精美、加载迅速？如何让更多用户使用我们的应用？更重要的是，如何早日实现以上目标？
因此，我们开始寻找解决方案，并了解到 Google 的 Flutter 高帧率流畅的 UI， 让我们马上对 Flutter 所创造的用户体验产生了浓厚的兴趣。但更重要的是，其带来的开发效率提升效果非常惊人。每一位开发人员都知道，为了覆盖最大量的用户，需要同时为 iOS 和安卓开发应用，这意味着必须同时维护2个不同的代码，这不可避免地拖慢了研发进度。然而 Flutter 让我们只需要使用单个代码，这使得应用维护更加简单高效。如此说来， Flutter 似乎是一个很好的选择，所以我们决定试一试。我们选择增量的开发 Flutter 功能，并将其集成到已经存在的应用中。目前，商品详情页作为闲鱼最复杂、最重要、用户访问最为频繁的部分，已经通过 Flutter 单个代码库同时运行在安卓和 iOS 平台上。
在过去的几个月里， Flutter 已经为我们提供了很多助力。它速度极快，因为它是一个纯原生应用程序。它丰富而富有表现力的 UI 组件，使得我们可以轻松创建优美的 UI， 而且它显著降低了我们实现新功能所需的工作量。现在我们能够高效地为多平台创建应用程序。商品发布页作为闲鱼 App 的一个重要部分，刚在本月完成了基于 Flutter 的发布。我们也非常期待接下来在阿里巴巴的闲鱼使用 Flutter 构建越来越多的功能。
Thank you very much for the support from the IT team. Awesome. So what makes Flutter so amazing? Let's look at a few factors contribute to this. The first and foremost thing is Flutter combine your Dart code into the native machine code for very fast performance on any devices. To explore this aspect, I would like to introduce you to the React Native architecture. Maybe you don't know about React Native, but to me, I think it's a very good comparison. And a lot of developers in our company is using React, so it's really easy to understand React Native. So as you can see in React Native, they are rich, and when you actually want to render a component in the platform, it's going to call the native API and render the native widget. But the thing the actual execution is on another JavaScript thread, and this is executed by the JavaScript virtual machine. It's not really native. And also on the mobile platform, the JavaScript virtual machine has a lot of limitation because of security and privacy concerns. So the performance is good, but it's not really approaching native. Now let's together look at the architecture behind Flutter. Flutter take another approach. First is the not render the native widget, but instead it have its own rendering graphic engine which called Skyer. So when you use Flutter, just pay attention that you have to use the Cupertino look and feel. You don't have a native widget. If what you aim is the native look and feel, then Flutter could not be a good choice. And the difference is performance in Flutter is that it combines the Dart code into the native code and it executes the code at the native speed. So there is no risk at all, and the performance is really good. Second, let's look at the second advantage of Flutter. By using a single code base, you can deploy on multiple devices, ranging from mobile, web to desktop and embedded devices. I believe React Native cannot do this, and there are some tools on the market which can also support this, but they are not open source and they charge a lot of money for this. So if you want to bring your code base from mobile to something like the display in the car, you don't need the additional team and effort to do it. The first one is stateful hot reload. Just imagine when you encounter a bug, you have to implement some fixes and you have to recombine your code for 10 or 20 seconds. It's going to take a lot of development effort, and it's overall it affects your happiness to release faster. But with stateful hot reload, you can have the fix immediately deployed within less than 1 second, and the state from the previous state remain the same. So you release faster, which increase the time to market. Next one is Declarative UI, and I really like this concept. If you are using React Native, when you want to start a component, you have to use CSS, right? So there will be a lot of decision between Tailwind, desktop first or mobile first, and then if you adjust the CSS in one place, it could affect the other places. That's why we have inline CSS. But with the Declarative UI approach, if you want a component on the left, you just say, I want it on the left. And if you want it to have two children, just add two element inside the top element. So it's very plain and very easy to maintain later. And to me, this the plus against React Native. And finally, because Flutter is using Dart, so if you come from the TypeScript background, that you should take 1 or 2 days to understand Dart, and the advantage of using Dart for a big team is very enormous. Just imagine you have a lot of developers who contribute a lot of both requests every day. So a single time mismatch can cause the hidden bugs in your repo and cost a lot of money when your app goes to version. But with type checking, especially when you don't have to choose between JavaScript and TypeScript, then it's going to enable you to have better collaboration between team members, and you can scale a team to 100 or 200 devs. So now let's look at the roles of using Flutter. First, as I said, we can have a single code base for multiple devices. So we just require a smaller team. Like in our team, Cosmonaut, we have just 2 developers, but we release very fast. And that is the efficiency of the team. And also it means we have faster time to market. If you want to develop Android and iOS application at the same time, there's nothing can beat Flutter or React Native. But if you want to build the platform with a lot of customization for iOS only, I think you should stick with script Kotlin for Android. The third one is by using Flutter, because of innovative architecture, it empower near-native performance. So they actually an overhead, which the platform the graphic rendering engine. But the performance is really good. You will never notice the lags behind it. And I really like the solid architecture from Flutter, like the Declarative UI and dark language, and the toolchain is very mature with host stateful reload. You can release faster, and overall it enriches the developer experience. So now let's look at the reason that not to use Flutter. So because Flutter is quite new, especially for Vietnamese developers. So I think it's really hard to find developers right now in Vietnam. So if you want to be a big team, you should definitely stick with React Native. And second is the performance is approaching native, but it's not native. There's nothing can beat native. And the third one is this is not a native UI. So if you want the best of the best for Android and iOS, you should have 2 separate teams, because in the long term, the cost of maintaining a single code base for multiple platforms is going to overtake the cost of have different team for multiple platforms, and you have the benefit of more customization and more user experience. And the final one is a lot of sensitive, because Google is pushing for this technology, and Google is also the owner of Android. So that means if there's an OS update in Android, Android will be the first class, will have Flutter support. iOS will be the secondary. So if your app requires a lot of customization underlying, you have to consider if you are using a lot of customization for iOS, or you have a dedicated developer for that platform. Otherwise, you can stick with Flutter and be happy with it. So I guess that's it for our talk today. Now it's time for the question and answer session. For those who cannot join in the office, please write the question and the team will help me to read it out. So first one, what is the difference between component and widget? I think I'm not the expert to this. To me, the widget is the widget is the native component that rendered by the UI, and the component is what we customize. Next question, if Flutter combines that to native, there is increase the build time more than native build. And you can show the build time comparison between Flutter and native. Probably yes, but to me it doesn't matter because most of the time you just build the app when you finish everything, and it's often done in 2 weeks or 1 month, and it should not increase any development cost at all. Next one, what are your idea on Flop and Get Us? To me, they are just tools, and you should always use the right tool for the job. Flop and Get Us is the design button to help you manage the code better. So if your code is don't require them and you feel comfortable sticking with it, just go without Flop and Get It. To get into the detail, you have to study the pros and cons of each technology, and there's always trade-off behind each. So it's up to you to decide what is best for you. And the final one, is it able to use some native library under iOS? The answer is yes. So when you hire Flutter developers, the developer should also know something behind the scenes, like working with Xcode and Android Studio. It's not required, but it's better that you know that to debug some issue when Apple reject your application, for example. And when you, for example, if you want to write the API to interact with the keychain on the location, you need to write some customization in Objective-C. So yes, but most of the time, if your app just display some news and have a list and some detail view, I think it's not necessary to interact with the native library. And also there's third party for that. Is there any challenges of building a CI/CD for Flutter? Yes, CI/CD is already a challenge, and right now in Cosmonaut, we're working on the back end, and we have a lot of challenges with that. So for starter, I would encourage you to stick with the software as a service solution, so you don't have to build any tool for that. For example, you can use Circle CI and Google App Engine, which she already made for you, and there's no DevOps effort required. It have code boost concept for React Native? I guess no. So one of the thing I missed in the slide is code boost. So code boost enable you to dynamically change your application logic without resubmitting the app. I think I'm not really an expert on it. It could be some way to enable code boost with Flutter, but I don't know. But for React Native, for sure, I know there's a way to do it because basically I have some experience with React Native before. Yeah.
So I have a question. So if you want to learn Flutter, is there any vendor or school that can teach Flutter that you can try to get a certificate about it?
Yeah, I think Flutter is very easy, and today the material is on the internet. As long as you have the goal and the passion to go for it, you don't need any certificate or school. Just go directly into the documentation, the official one, and study and build some app and deploy it to the store. I know some developer here. One example, Inyan, he released some application to iOS, which is very good. So just get started.
Would you see yourself as a Flutter mentor? If someone would like to start with Flutter, can they come to you and get you to be a mentor?
Yeah, of course. I'm not the Flutter expert, but I believe I have the architecture view of the overall system. So if you have some question regarding to technical, just come to me and we can have a coffee, and I can invite you for lunch too.
for beginner, which one I should choose for deep dive into it and learn it, get it and block.
So to me, these two design button is quite advanced. So for beginner, I would say we need, to me, I just use provider. If I want style management, I just back it from the top to the bottom and to the nested component. It's like in React.
Yeah, in case that I know like basic stuff and I want to go far with the big project, how is it?
I would say blob.
Okay, thanks. And another question, for example, when you have the requirement from client and you decide to choose Flutter and native, how can you like recommend them which technical should you use?
So in case of NFQ, I would pick native. Because as I said before, Flutter is very hard to find developers right now. And with native, you have a lot of quality solution. But if the client reject it, we just go with Flutter.
I mean that for we have Flutter guys and native guy already in NFQ. And that project, you mean that you can tell them that project can go with Flutter and it can do everything, but some guy can they want to choose native because there's something Flutter cannot do.
So the answer is still native. In that case, I would say the decision should be made by the head of engineering or the tech lead of the project, because if one of your team member knows Flutter, but the other knows native, and the one guy doesn't like Flutter, we cannot work together at all. So it's better to find a common tools that the team can contribute and move fast.
Yeah, I'm really new about this topic about the mobile app. So I cannot imagine how can I start with Flutter. So what tool should I use? Any idea? And how can I start with the new project? I need to want to visit that one. And for starting with Flutter, any requirement about the background knowledge for second, you need to know something about the native programming for Android, iOS, or just the website developer or something like that?
I would say the basic programming experience would be suitable for this. You just go to the official website and try out with the Hello World example and try to deploy it to the App Store. That's it. There's no sophisticated process, and you will learn in the process.
Yeah, so as you say, that's Flutter quite easy and simple, and we can learn from reading document. So why the number of developers working on Flutter in Vietnam is so small? Just some people.
Yeah, so there are some reasons for this. First, the developers often afraid to get out of the comfort zone. For example, if I can code BSP, I stick with BSP all the time. Don't want to code in Haskell or Golang, for example. And second is if I stick with native, maybe the byte range could be higher than Flutter, so there's no benefit for me to move to Flutter. But if you start your own project, which is less risk, just go with anything you like.
Okay, thank you. So there's a new questions on Slidu. Any thoughts on Kotlin multi-platform versus Flutter?
That is an interesting question. So if I have to develop the application for Android and iOS, I would choose Flutter. But if I want to start with one platform like Android only, Kotlin would be the best choice. the question is actually about a Kotlin multi-platform. So I assume that this tool can also support multiple platforms like Flutter. I would pick Flutter because this tool is very young, and the rule of thumb is you should stick with the well-known and the boring technology. If you go with some young guy like this, it's going to cost you a lot later.
Multiple platform is KMM, is they call KMM. Kotlin can code cross-platform, but you have to build a UI like it can share the logic, but they cannot share the UI. You have to build a UI for Android and iOS separately with the
Thank you. Yeah, so that is the disadvantage against Flutter. Thank you very much.
I just want to add in. So 5 minutes for advertisement. You know that NFQ, before that, we don't have a lot of mobile developer, but right now the mobile chapter of NFQ, we are growing to 10 people. And in the mobile chapter, we also have the Flutter training course. Actually, we do the Flutter training starting from June, and we are having the course for training. So if you're interested in training Flutter, ping me. So I will add you to a group. I just add one to the group. So I hope that you can support other people with Flutter knowledge and sharing and something like that. I heard the question about the Flutter developer is not a lot in Vietnam. So I do hope that in the future, we will have more and more Flutter developer. You know that Facebook, they give up on support React Native by themselves, the framework, but still the community of React Native is still a lot and still developing. But also, I do believe that the vision of mobile development in the next 5 years is a cross-platform versus the native, and Flutter will play a very important role. Also, one of the reasons for startup that chose Flutter at the beginning is to finish the MVP. So the trend is always you go with Flutter, with the development, go to the MVP, go to the market, and then you migrate to the native. So in short, to answer, a good mobile engineer, you need to know everything. The native and also the cross-platform language, which is buff your career a lot in the future.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Anta, for sharing.
All right. Is there any questions left for Kwon before we wrap the session up? Well, if you need to ask Kwon any questions related to Flutter or React Native or mobile app development, you can reach out to him on Slack, PM, or just email him or meet him directly at the office. Where do you sit? On what floor? Fifth?
Second floor.
Second floor,
yeah.
Yes.
And also for any question regarding front-end and back-end, I can answer it.
Yes, thank you for your spirit. All right, and so I would like to wrap this thing up. Thank you everyone for joining in the office or online, and we see you on the next NFQ talk. And a teaser, next week we will have an Ask Me Anything session with Gam, founder and resident of Bangkok office. So stay tuned. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, speaker.